Heh, Justin Z, you've
We're
entered
here,
the arena of the Vaush, huh?
bro.
What
Facts and logic.
do you have to say?
I'm
What's up,
ready.
buddy?
I'm ready. I'm just saying, like, I think I said this before. Anarchy is pretty much like a joke of an ideology. At this point, I don't think there's many people who legitimately. I mean, you have your Richard Wolffs and people like that.
Would you
but,
like to articulate why you think it's a joke, or did you just, like, read that somewhere?
I don't know. Like, we could go through specific scenarios. And you
Oh,
can tell me,
no. I would love to go through specific scenarios. So, what particular aspects of anarchist theory do you believe are inapplicable to the modern world, or like what elements of it do you think sort of fail when put into practice?
I feel like just as a whole, it's tough to like give such a broad statement that would categorize like exactly why it fails.
Whoa.
Here.
Well, hold on. I've never argued the point that previous anarchist societies haven't failed. I
No.
agree to
That's not what I'm
that.
talking about.
Oh, you're talking about the theory specifically. Then why would you make a statement like everyone laughs at anarchist theory, everyone's moved on, something, and then when you come on here, you go like, well, I don't know, it's just really broad. Like, I don't know. Like, what elements of theory do you disagree with?
You asked me to make a broad statement about why anarchism is fundamentally flawed, and I can't precisely do that.
What?
I'd have to run you through specific scenarios in which it fails to make my argument.
What's your what's your political ascription?
I'd say like left liberal for the most part.
Damn. All right. Why are you punching left, comrade? What's up?
Because I feel like people like you take away from like the validity of the left and the legitimacy of it. There's like a lot of ways that you do this.
I'm ready
aside
to
from
hear
just
it.
your ideology. Like, I think your image is also something that takes away from this.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered you like back in the day when you had that like, I'd say cringy, no offense, avatar.
Wait.
Of you being like super buff and swole.
Wait, how's
And
that?
then, like,
Wait, I drew that myself. You didn't like it?
I know, but then I actually checked you out on stream, and it was totally like inconsistent with your actual image. And I feel like
wait,
when
yeah,
you do
that's the
things
joke.
Like this, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. Drew myself more like cartoonishly muscular.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
and I'm just a regular
it
dude.
feels like the things that you've said on stream are sort of inconsistent with that.
But
And,
when
a
I
lot of
was
your
streaming, I
behaviors-
had a cam.
Yeah, I know that. So here, for example, when you brought on what's his name, Hunter Avalon,
Uh-huh.
you kept like insulting him for his appearance and like his fitness level and stuff like that.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Wait, I think Hunter Avalon's a cutie. When did I insult Hunter Avalon?
You keep calling him like a baby boy. What else? You said like, oh, this guy's such like a twink and stuff like that.
Well,
You insulted him.
Well,
It's
the
pretty clear.
twink is a compliment. The baby boy is because
I
he's
don't think
younger
it is.
than me.
I don't think it is.
Wait, do you not fuck men?
Here, wait, let me find this. No, I don't.
Oh, then you wouldn't know.
I have
How would
nothing
you
against-
know?
No, here's the thing, right? So let me find the context that you made these statements. Vaush, Hunter Avalon. Also, dude, it's kind of crazy how much Google listens to you. I literally like typed in Vaush and it immediately came up Hunter Avalon. So it's listening to my microphone right now.
Yeah,
It's kind of nuts.
I'm popping right now. I told Google what to give you. I'm in with them.
Yeah, dude.
You know who them
It's
is,
true,
right?
dude. George Soros. Yeah, the big boys. Sick echoes. I mean, I can't find specifically the context. It would take me like a little while to find the exact minute that you called him like these things. But like,
Are
it was
you like
pretty
a
clear to
Hunter
me from the
Avalon
context.
fan or?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, okay.
He's very
Well,
wrong.
okay, so I mean, I can explain pretty much anything pretty easily. So I believe that an aspect in which the left has been ineffective at reaching people with political disagreements with the left has been appealing to the masculine. Generally speaking, left advocacy appeals very much to the androgynous and the feminine, because
Exactly, I
deconstructing
agree.
toxic masculinity is like a really important part of like moving forward as a society. However, it does leave some people behind in terms of rhetoric, so I try to be somewhat facetiously and somewhat sincerely a masculine emblem and express that in my persona, in the way I speak. It's something I've done my whole life, so it's not like I'm faking it for the stream or anything, but it is a deliberate rhetorical strategy that I try to bring people in, like by not
No, I
being
agree
like the
with that.
effect.
I think it's
yeah.
the way that you present that sort of masculinity is inconsistent with your actual like behavior and your actual image and stuff like that. Like, no offense, but like, I came in and, I mean, like, here, let me give one example. Didn't you use a fake image of yourself on like an airplane or something where you had like a super chiseled jaw and everything like that?
No, that was just me before I gained weight for college.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. But like, that's not what you look like now.
It's just a good picture of me. I'm not shit. I'm not. I don't like hide the fact that I'm overweight or anything. I just okay. Like I understand. Like, were you like disappointed when you saw me in real life?
Actually, yes, because I expected you to be like this big guy that's into lifting and like bodybuilding.
Hey,
All
I'm
these
working
things.
on it
And,
right
like,
now.
those are
Okay.
things that I'm interested in. You know, so like I expected someone to have the similar image, and I thought it would be something that's really positive for the left. You know, but then I came in and it's like, oh well, if I was a right winger, and I feel like right wingers like Red Ice TV have already done this, right? I would look at this inconsistency and I'd use it as like fuel to attack the left. Because
Well,
there's
it
already
hasn't.
this.
It hasn't really been an inconsistency for 8 months because I stream with a cam and don't draw myself all beefy anymore unless I'm bored and have nothing else to do. So this is pretty concretely the persona that I like live with. Even the avatar that I've drawn myself for my YouTube icon and stuff, I just drew myself with a regular body, not a really muscular one, because I didn't want people to think that I was like advertising myself as like a lifting channel or something, you know?
I suppose. I do see lifting as like a general problem, or not lifting. Inconsistency is a general problem. Sort of like
Hit me up.
with
Listen,
your image.
I understand if you were disappointed that I don't have like listening abs, but ideologically, I think I've been pretty consistent.
Well, I don't think I was really talking in terms of ideology. I was mainly talking in terms of image. We could get into the ideological stuff I disagree with you on, though.
Hey, listen, I'm going to the gym right now. I've got leg day going on after the stream. Can we amend this disappointment if I come back in 1 year swole as shit?
Yes, yes.
All right, good.
Dude, that's
okay,
the
we're
only
working
way.
on this one. That's
The only
synthesis right there.
And also, I know this is old news and stuff like that, but I feel like the way that you handled your like sexual assault cases and stuff
Wait,
like that
whoa. Sexual assault?
not well, harassment is what I should say. Not
Yeah,
assault.
you should say that, I
My
think.
bad. My bad. I chose the wrong word, but I feel like the way you handled that was pretty unprofessional too.
I'm not a
because-
professional, though.
Well, I mean, you sort of are. You get paid for the things you do online.
Yeah, but I do it in a very unprofessional way. I'm okay with how I
By
handled it.
definition, that is professional. If you're getting paid for what you're doing here, I consider that professional work.
I think I handled it pretty well. For the most part, I think it was a difficult situation to navigate, like as from a PR perspective, like ethically, you know. But I think that all things
you could have,
considered,
been very upfront and apologized, and pretty
Well,
much,
I
like,
was
immediately-
upfront from the beginning. That was the upfrontedness was never the issue. I wanted to
I don't
apologize to them
know.
privately.
It's been a while since I've seen that video, so I can't like bring out specific criticisms of the things you said. I mean, we could go through it together, but I'm not really interested in doing that. But like it came across to me that it was more of a non-apology, more of like you focusing on your rhetoric. I think you sort of like deflected a little bit too. This is a big problem that like the DGG Destiny's chat has with you, is that like they saw this and they're like, wow, he really hasn't redeemed himself. He
Well,
just
these
sort of
people have
passed by it.
brain worms, so I'm not particularly interested.
You really think so?
Yeah, whoa, yeah, yes. One thing I learned very quickly is that as a public figure, there are going to be some people who hate you for deeply irrational reasons that cannot be dealt with no matter what you do. I think
Yeah, I would not
anyone
say
who
this is
reads
one of
that
them.
video as being like insincere probably came in that with like preternatural biases. The video pretty clearly indicates that what I did was wrong, explain the entirety of the situation, and suggests that it is not my perception of this which matters, but the perceptions of the people that I harassed. I think that like anyone who interprets it in any other way probably came into that with some kind of dislike of me to begin with.
Really? Well, this is sort of anecdotal what I'm about to say, but like I've been in the DGG Discord, I've been in this Discord for a little bit now, and like from what it seems like there's a lot more nuance, a lot less bias in Destiny's chat than there is here. Like they'll disagree with Destiny on a lot of points, but pretty much here I pretty much see like 100% consistent admiration of all your ideas.
Yeah,
just like a lot
because I'm right
logical
more often than
arguments.
Destiny. What do you want from me?
No.
Whoa,
you can go
whoa.
over
The
that now.
lib bias. The reason why is because Destiny has been streaming for a decade and has a much broader base of content to draw upon. He also doesn't actively like cull elements of his community as aggressively as I do. When I wanted tankies out, I got them out of the community. When I wanted fascists out, I got them out. I'm pretty much just a rhetoric like tutorial like YouTuber at this point, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that position.
Yeah, I guess.
And people do get mad at me pretty often, by the way. The North Sentinelese thing comes to mind. But people disagree with Destiny pretty often. Very often when people disagree with Destiny, it's because either Destiny had a shit take or because the person in chat is like an idiot. Like, disagreements don't always mean like healthy discourse.
I mean, that's true, but I mean, again, I'd have to bring up specific circumstances that I've been in. this is dumb, but like literally I was just in here like an hour or like an hour and a half ago talking about things like determinism, and like all the takes that people brought up to oppose me were really, really unfounded. So again, that's anecdotal.
Well,
I don't have like any numbers on this,
you
but
accused me of being an anarchist, which is an unsupported, like unbelievable ideology, and you haven't
have you
given
not
any
claimed that? Oh,
you haven't given any examples. So you can't really
wait.
you can't really claim other people are making unfounded ideological claims when your base criticism
I could
of me.
like argue that now if you want me to.
I would love what principle. Also, is it a principal issue with leftism in general, or just with anarchism? Are you fine with like Marxist communism?
I mean, in an ultimate sense, I think in like thousands and thousands, or maybe hundreds of years even, we could achieve this sort of like utopian state of Marxism. I think Marx, he was good overall in a sense, like for his time period, but like now, a lot of the predictions that he made seem to be untrue. Like he couldn't have predicted things like unions. He couldn't have predicted things like, well, he did, but like not.
He didn't just predict unions. Unions existed when he was writing,
but not to the extent that they do now.
No,
not at
more.
all.
No, what does that have to do with anything? Unions existed more 40 years after Karl Marx's death than they do now, though. Like that's saying like he couldn't have predicted like the plane. Like I don't know what that has to do with.
Well, my point is that I think he largely failed to predict capitalism's ability to distribute wealth. You know, because back in the time when he was around, it was really, really out of hand.
There's greater wealth inequality now than there was back in the mid 19th century.
I don't think that's true.
That is objectively, factually, demonstrably true. If you look at where wealth in the societies, if you want to look at wealth in societies, I'm sorry, just really quickly. Have you heard the same line coming out from the news every single year? More and more wealth being held by the 1% than ever before? Because
in the United States.
Yes, and globally, more wealth is being concentrated into the bourgeois of every respective country than it has been at any other point in history.
I don't know. I seriously sort of doubt this. I mean, when I'm thinking about the 1850s, I'm thinking about like huge populations of people working in factories, you know, wives, children.
And it's gotten worse, yes. The living standards have increased,
really?
But in terms of the wealth distribution, yes, things have gotten worse. A large part of that is because our economy is globalized. So now you have an international proletariat, which can be exploited at even greater extents than a domestic proletariat can. The economy has grown more efficient, thus, so has the degree of exploitation.
But back in the day, instead of just exploiting them through capitalism, you'd exploit them through like actual slavery. You know, like in the Philippines and China and stuff.
There are still slaves that are working today.
I feel like wealth inequality then was probably a lot worse. Again, I'd like to see numbers on this. I don't know how many numbers we have from the 1850s.
We do have numbers on this. The fact that slavery has been abolished does not mean that wealth inequality has decreased.
I'd have to see sources to contradict it to change my mind.
You haven't provided any sources of your own. You just brought this point up. What the fuck? No. So if you want the actual like answer to this, while general levels of exploitation in like regards to like child labor laws or slavery,
I don't know what you're saying. This guy.
Wait, do you not understand like the English language, or was there a word I used?
People in Discord are hating me so much right now. Go away, Justin.
Are you? Hello?
This guy's boring. Very bad takes.
Hello?
I've never been on stream before. I've never been in any stream before.
Did he think he muted me?
Why can't I hear you?
Are you okay?
Well, I'm just talking to myself. And I'm talking to the people in chat right now.
Yeah, you are, and not to me. Are you there?
I have the stream on. I can't hear you in Discord.
Okay, okay, 1 second. What the fuck? Did anything break on my end? Nope, and nope. Oh, okay, hello?
All right, yeah. Wait, let me try now.
Can you hear me?
Okay, speak to me in Discord.
I'm speaking to you in Discord.
I still can't hear you. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
All
it's
right.
On your end.
It's not on my end. I have everything set. Just accept the call. Hello?
Oh, no. Wait, try speaking again.
something
All
on.
right, good. We're good now.
Okay,
All right.
so
Boomer tech support, bro.
no worries. So
This
I
is
don't know.
Boomer v.
It's,
Zoomer
it's
right
all
now.
right. Discord shit. Listen. So to iterate, while certain elements of labor exploitation have mostly been culled over the past 100 years, like
Here, one
slavery.
second. My mom's talking. All right, I love you, Mom. All right. I swear I'm not acting. I swear I'm not trolling right now.
Hey, listen, it's okay. I love my mom too. While certain elements of labor exploitation have been more or less culled over the past 100 years, the broader level of wealth expropriation from the underclass of society.
Dude, I swear I'm not trolling.
This is an
happens.
incredible bit, I have to say.
You want to talk to my mom? She's a fundamentalist Christian.
I don't doubt it.
Can I get some Zoomers in chat real quick?
Wait, I was the boomer in that example? I'm 25.
Bro, you're the one having tech support issues, not me.
You was, buddy, I'm a fucking streamer. All my shit's checked out. I promise you it was your end.
Yeah, well, chat would beg to differ based on their boomer spam right now.
It was your headset. It wasn't your microphone. Okay.
No, the future's now, bro. I'm telling you.
All right.
It's Fortnite time.
Yeah. It's Minecraft now, actually. If you watch PewDiePie,
Dude,
you would
Minecraft.
know.
Nah, Minecraft is old. We're younger. We're really out here. Here, sorry. Once this vacuum turns off, I'll actually engage you about
No
Antarctica,
problem.
like that.
I think I'm losing this debate.
Dude, chat is so mauled right now. So mauled. Can I get unbanned, by the way? You thought I was a tanky.
I did unban you. You might be
Oh,
worse than a tanky. I think you're a lib.
Yeah. All right. What are your thoughts on Blueface?
Blueface?
Yeah, Blueface, baby.
I mean, I'm cool with it if it's for the music, okay?
Yeah, bro. It's more than music. It's a lifestyle.
Just let me know.
All right, just a few more minutes. Not actually. I think like 30 more seconds. You hear the vacuum?
Yes, I can. Hold on. I'll do
probably
donuts.
get my mom on the call after.
Nitric Bassist with the $5. Overwatch Grand Finals are happening soon. I'm a vote for Vancouver. Anyways, love you. I love you too, Nitric Bassist. Thank you very much. Good luck with Overwatch. Dead game, lol. That's not true. It's a good game. It's pretty okay. It's good. Posadas John with the $1. This is literally an Always Sunny opening card, bit like Macker Dent says nothing can go wrong, then something immediately does. I don't know what that's in reference to, Posadas John, but I don't need reference to know that I love you on a deep and personal level. Thank you for your contribution. King C1285 with the $2. Don't kink shame me and my blankie. No promises with that one. Bing Bong with the tier 2 sub. Thank you. I'd say fuck Keem, but who would degrade themselves that hard? Yeah. You know he's 3 feet tall though, which means he's a king. We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay. So
gotta keep the living room clean.
So long story short, labor expropriation exists and it's bad. All right. What's the issue with anarchy? What's the issue with my ideological positions?
I think it's just like inconsistent with reality. I mean, like from what we've seen in like libertarian societies so far, they don't really seem to work out. Do you know about the Articles of Confederation?
I know about the Articles of Confederation. Wait. Wait, in the Articles, back when the colonies were just like separate and not unified by a federal government, that's not really like what anarchism is about.
No, but in general, you had a weak federal government, and you could see the consequences of that, and they were strictly negative.
Why can't you have like a strong government but a weak state?
A weak state? Well, wait. First of all, could you precisely define for me what your like anarchist state would look like? Not state, anarchist society would look like. Well,
this isn't usually what I do. Normally on stream, I defend market socialism because I believe that needs to be used as a transitionary state before advancing to a anarcho-syndicalist society. So what I'm prescribing right now is something that probably wouldn't exist for 200 or 300 years.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I thought you were immediately advocating for like anarchy.
No, I immediately advocate for a proletarian revolution in favor of a market socialist state, the abolition of the bourgeois class, seizure of property.
I don't think that would solve any of the problems society is currently facing. Well, maybe a few, but The
Yeah,
majority
well,
of
there
them.
you go. It'd solve a few problems, wouldn't it? It wouldn't
But
get
it would
the
definitely not
incels
be worth
laid,
it.
but
That is an insane risk to take.
not
A
really.
violent revolution? Yes. I
I don't
mean, you
think
know
so.
the
Well, the
history of
violent
revolution.
revolution is going to happen one way or another. It just has to happen in the right direction.
Mm, source? I don't actually think that's the case.
Do you
I
want to
think it's
discuss
very
it? Do you
possible.
wait? Do you think I have a source on predicting that a violent revolution will take place at the end of
No, I didn't
capitalism?
legitimately want a source. It was just a pretty extraordinary claim.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what I
we
was
can
saying.
talk about it pretty easily, I think. So, there are a couple of concepts that exist within capitalism that seem like they're internally agitatory and aren't going to be able to be resolved before we deal with social pressures that will force us into action that is not compatible with the framework of capitalism. One big example would be climate change. We're not going to be able to solve it in time. And when we start seeing climate refugees climbing in from the third world as their sea levels rise and miles of coast are obliterated by the ocean and millions of people move inland, this will create social pressures that will force nations into action. And when that time comes, I do not believe the government is going to be able to respond properly. Look at how much Europe is shitting and pissing itself over like a few million people in a continent with like a billion people. Imagine that, but with hundreds of millions of people moving inland over a period of decades. I think at this point, the governments are going to fail to meaningfully respond to the needs of the people, and you can either have a fascist revolution or a socialist revolution. One way or another, the capitalism has to go.
Okay, do you have actual numbers about like how quickly this migration will occur?
We
As a
can
result of
we can
climate
take a
change?
look at like relative sea levels across like the Philippines, the Southeast Asia, Latin America, and see which areas would be affected within 1, 2, 3, 4 decades of climate change sea levels rising. I don't have like the hard numbers on that, but I'm pretty sure I could procure them.
Okay, I might be like willing to accept this. I'll call it a theory. Um, I just really hope you have like some academic consensus or some academic, just anyone in academia that proposes this idea. Do you?
The idea of what?
The idea of mass migration occurring within a few years from climate change.
Yeah, well, within a few decades, like within 20 or 30 years, yeah, absolutely. I didn't develop that take on my own or anything. I'm pretty sure I read a climate report talking about the consequences this would have on Southeast Asia. And the natural, like, there are either two things that can happen, right? Either hundreds of millions of people drown and just sit there in their houses as the sea levels rise, or they're forced to move inland. And we know what happens when large groups of people are forced to move inland. We know what refugee crises like do to societies.
Yeah, or they could sell their houses. Didn't think about
Or they
that.
could sell their houses and move with all
Yeah.
that wealth they got from selling to Aquaman.
Yeah, exactly. I heard the underwater market's pretty big right now.
Do you have a problem with the concept of a violent revolution?
Yeah, I think it's pretty like inconsistent in terms. I feel like gradual change through liberal democracy has been the most successful path that we've seen right now.
How do you feel about the American Revolution?
So there's a few things about the American Revolution which separate it from other revolutions.
Oh.
Like, oh yeah, like for one, the populace was much more educated and wealthy on average.
That is not true. Today, the population is much more educated. Maybe not.
No, not in modern
wealthy.
society, right? I'm talking about like other revolutions. So like, for example, what happened in France or what happened in I don't know, like Vietnam, China.
Yeah,
USSR.
that would be an example of what went wrong. The French Revolution was an attempt at a proletarian revolution. The American Revolution was bourgeois. It was led by landowning aristocrats who, when they seized control of the Americas, kept everything basically the same as it was before. The life of the average person after and before the American Revolution changed nil. Not for a slave and not for a free man either. Exact same system, same pay, same
so
taxes.
This is my point. So you said, oh, well, the reason that this revolution... Sorry about the phone call, by the way.
That's your point?
Yeah, listen, the reason that the revolution was exceptional was because it was led by these landowning, wealthy bourgeois, right? That were, highly educated about like Lockean philosophy and stuff like that. If there was going
and
to be a
nothing
revolution
changed.
Wait, what do you mean nothing?
Nothing changed. The life of the average person didn't change, but you just argued in favor of a violent revolution as long as it wasn't... Whoa, hold on. You just argued in favor of a violent revolution as long as it wasn't the dirty, uneducated, smelly proles leading it. So you're fine with a violent revolution as long as it's our rulers initiating it?
No, not necessarily. I didn't say that necessarily makes a revolution good or bad, but it's a factor which definitely contributed to its success. So really how this
So
supplements
your
my point
problem with
is,
violent revolution
well,
hinges more on the potential
actually
for
make my point,
success
please.
than it does the actual
Let
concept
me
of
actually
using
make my
violence.
point. No, listen. So what I was trying to say and what I'm going to say now is that here's the thing: climate change, right, would not be led by this same aristocratic class because they don't have an interest in the climate. They could avoid any of the consequences of climate change. You understand that?
Agreed.
So they would. Okay, so why would you have this aristocratic, bougie?
They wouldn't. The
educated
proletarian
class?
revolution would take place. Those people are going to have their heads chopped off. They literally destroyed the planet so they could continue living on their yachts. Then the new society, whatever that might be, can lean either reactionary or socialist. And I would
Yeah,
like
and
it
you
to
look
go
at the
socialist.
history of proletarian revolutions, and has there been a really great success rate? I'd say no.
Wait. If the whole of your argument is, haha, look at how communism has been tried in the past, this is a very weak argument.
But...
There have been, there have been plenty of successful revolutions in the past. Vietnam, Haiti, fucking,
you consider
Bolivia.
Vietnam's revolution successful?
Well, I'm sorry. Do you count the invasion of the most powerful imperialist nation on the planet as hinging into whether or not that success takes place?
Yeah, obviously, that's probably the biggest factor.
Well, that wouldn't be a factor if the entire country is writhing under the threat of proletarian revolution.
Okay, so really the only way that this revolution would be capable of occurring.
No, it's going It's going to happen one way or another. The bourgeois can't really control the entirety of the planet revolting against the conditions that are going to take place within a half century.
Again, I'm first of all accepting your claim that
I think you're coming at this from a very different perspective than most leftist academics come at this, okay? History is defined in large part by conflict between people of different classes. I think this is called historical class conflict. I don't think it's particularly controversial, even amongst many liberals. Many liberals would be willing to admit, like, okay, yes, well, most of society has been driven forward between conflict between those who have and those who have not, right?
Yeah,
now,
largely, but not entirely. I think the extent to which Marx believed that was like too extreme.
Well, I mean, that's because he was advancing his theory. I'm not a full modernist in this respect. I recognize there are different perspectives by which you can analyze change in history, but it's a big part. It's a really big part. Most revolutions that have taken place throughout history have been a product of class struggle, after all. Now, if you look into the near future, we are looking at a world which is about to come under global turmoil that has not been seen in history. Not even close. Climate change is an entire league of its own. And it seems like, as we approach that point, the existing economic and political structure is completely failing to meaningfully address this upcoming threat. I think most libs would be willing to agree with that, too. Frustrated.
I don't know. I don't think I agree with your statement to the extreme degree which climate change will affect things. I think that we could look historically at something like the Industrial Revolution.
Then you're out of line with the scientific consensus on this issue. We're literally looking at a cataclysmic impact.
I'm not a climate denier, Chicken God 37.
If you're not a climate denier, then you should recognize that the damage that is going to be done within the next few decades is tantamount to the apocalyptic. It is beyond anything that we have dealt with. This isn't we've invented factories so people move closer to the city near the river so they can work in them. This is the entire planet's architecture fundamentally changing. This is hundreds of millions of people being displaced from coastal cities. This is an increase in temperatures that will lead to some areas of the earth being inhospitable. The deserts will crawl across. The Sahara will grow larger than it has ever been in history.
Romantic, poetic language.
Whoa. I don't appreciate the condescension from a Zoomer, my friend. This isn't romantic, like, prose. This is what will happen. And it is the blithe dismissal of people like you that has allowed this issue to progress to this point.
Not really. I'd actually argue it's the opposite.
It's the opposite. So you saying how romantic is precisely the attitude that will lead towards this problem.
Here, let me actually make the statement I was going to make without interrupting you.
I wasn't even done with my statement before you interrupted it. Class 5 hurricanes will wreak the planet, the temperatures will rise, the forests will burn, the deserts will crawl across the world. This is not like the Industrial Revolution. This is an entirely new problem, and it's bigger than one we've ever dealt with.
I don't think it is.
Then you're just out of line.
about-
I'm sorry. Of course, our presuppositions are going to be different if you disagree with the scientific literature of the consequences that will take place within the next few decades.
Let me make my point. The Industrial Revolution literally flipped everything about society.
No, it didn't. It meant that
Yes, it
people who
did.
were poor in the fields moved and were poor in the factories. That is not the same as the entire planet for every single person on Earth fundamentally changing. I'm sorry. This is a degree of it. Listen. I love ideological disagreement. I build my career off of it. But I have no idea what to do if you unironically believe that the Industrial Revolution even fucking compares to the damage that will be done to the planet on account of climate change. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I think when you think about, women finally entering the workforce, that's largely a product of the
Are
Industrial Revolution.
you really are a liberal? You actually believe the end of the world means less than a minor change in how the bourgeois obtain their wealth from the proletariat?
Minor change.
Yes,
50%
it is.
Of the
You know what would be
becoming employed.
That's
a minor change.
That is a minor change compared to climate
minor.
change. You're delusional. You realize that, right? You unironically just answer like, "Oh yeah, the world may change." Do you realize women started working during the Industrial Revolution? What the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, I never realized the extent to which you romanticize your language until right now, because
you can't deal nothing. Wait. The fact that you think that's romanticized language is an indication of your ignorance. Everything I described is literally out of the pamphlet. It's literally out of the pamphlet for what will happen to this planet under climate change. If anything, I might be understating some of the effects. You realize if we hit 3 degrees Celsius higher than the average predicted temperature that is currently taking place, we might enter a feedback loop where we continue to trap more greenhouse gases until this planet is literally inhospitable to human life. Not just, we'll have to move further inland. Not just, the sea levels will rise. Not just, the Sahara will get bigger. Literal extinction event. Possible, unless we deal with it. This isn't romantic language. This is included in the climate change reports that have been filed through the UN. The fact that you're willing to blithely dismiss it in your desperate attempt to cling to the status quo is evidence that it is people like you who are responsible for fucking this world over.
Speaking. This is just really rude, to be honest. So
this is getting incredibly boring. If you have a point to make it. Quit grandstanding.
All right. Well, what I was going to say is that a lot of the claims that you've made about climate change in the past actually degrade from the cause of preventing it. I think you falsely attribute that 70% statistic. 100 companies contribute 70% of carbon emissions. I think you falsely use that in a way that from the context that you've used it in, right? You've made it seem like individual action is unimportant.
Yes, it is. In the broader context of things, a change in the system is what's needed, not a change in people's individual habits. This is agreed upon by everyone who studies climate science. The idea that just recycling more and buying more biodegradable materials is going to fix the planet is fantasy, perpetuated by people like you who are more interested in making sure that the profit margins of the bourgeois are not interrupted as we attempt to prevent the world from ending. Yes,
yeah, totally,
systemic change is necessary. You're doing it, dude. You're fucking the earth. Does it feel good? Is this you losing your virginity here live on stream as you disseminate ideology which is identical to that which the bourgeois have perpetuated to ensure that they don't have to live off 1 yacht instead of 4?
Yeah, dude, epic. With my total bourgeois
Is it embarrassing to be coming live on stream in front of 2K people with your mom there? Can she see the ropes firing into your fucking tidy whities? This is fucking embarrassing. Here I thought, finally, at long last, a liberal to show me my place. And your argument is that the fucking Industrial Revolution will lead to greater changes than the fucking climate change?
You interrupted me to prove me wrong there.
I mean, you're free to make a point, but everything you say is really dumb, and it takes more effort to dismiss a dumb point than it does to make a dumb point.
So you're saying half of the population entering the workforce, right?
Yes, I'm saying it. For one, the entire human population still worked under feudalism. They worked the farms. The only thing that changed was that increases in industrial efficiency allowed people to find work in different areas as automation led to an increase in the productivity of farms. So for most people, all it meant was that they worked 18 hours a fucking day on the farms, and then they moved, and then they worked fucking 18 hours a day in the factories. The only thing that really meaningfully changed is the pace by which technological advancements were made, which was a huge impact on human society. I'm not a fucking idiot, but I'm not talking about impacts in human development. I'm talking about potential cataclysmic effects on the rest of the world. And in that regard, climate change blows this thing out of the water by a factor of 1,000. Not even close.
No, No,
Do you not
I
recognize the
totally
difference
disagree
between a
with that
social?
statement.
Then you are delusional, my friend,
I'm
and it
not
doesn't. And it
delusional,
makes
and let me
sense to
make
me.
my point
It
so you
makes
could
sense to
actually-
me why you think my chat is so much more combative and less willing to discuss interesting ideas than Destiny's chat. If these are the interesting ideas that you brought to chat.
Yeah, totally. Now let me make my actual argument, right?
What is the argument? Your argument is that people moving from one part of the world to
You've talked
another.
about 5 times longer than I have this entire debate.
Well, if you have a good idea, you get the right to the fucking speaking conch, buddy.
Wow,
Here,
yeah.
make your point.
It's almost like this is your show. Like you're louder than me. Like there's other people in my house right now, so I can't speak as loud as
Damn,
I'd like
but
to.
well, there are other people in my house. They're not my mom, though. Sorry, guess
Yeah,
boomers win this
it's only
one.
my fault that I'm 16 years old.
Damn, boomers win it again. Sucks to not be able to fucking drink either.
I know, dude. Yeah, and by the way, I really liked how you made the claim that I'm totally here to uphold the bourgeois.
You are
standards.
by perpetuating
Dude.
the lie that individual action is what's needed to like address climate change. At least I assume that's what you meant, because you argued against the contrary. Yes, I would consider people like you complicit in what's happening, and this is data backed. I know, like that triggers
I'd totally
you,
be
but
super complicit in this. You know, considering that I'm from like probably the lowest 5% of household income in the United States.
damn, should have
fact-
become a YouTube streamer, my dude.
I know, dude. At 16, when I'm literally struggling to get into college. Well, not struggling, but
Why are you
trying my
trying to
hardest get
pity
into a good
bait me?
college.
I don't care.
No, because it's so dumb. Because you're giving me this image, right, of being like this pathetic person who sort of like is only here to stick up for the corporations. and
No,
stuff
I think
like that.
you're a
And that's not at
liberal.
all what I'm doing.
That's what I think you
Yes,
are.
sir.
You've got all the signs. You've got all the conditions. The diagnosis is flawless. You argue against impending threats that require social change. You argue that individual action is more important than systemic action, and you argue that fundamental changes in bourgeois like wealth expropriation are more important to society than a literal physiological change to the planet. You argue that like, oh, a revolution would be fine as long as it's not the dirty peasants running it. Like, yeah, you've got all the signs of a liberal. It's cool, my dude. You've had your fun. You've had the past 3 centuries to do lib shit. You built the world up. I'm very proud of you. Nicely done. Goods and bads, flaws and
Yeah, you're
positives.
just gonna speak over me instead of letting me actually make my point. So
Listen,
my
when
point
I was
before is,
16,
if
I
you're
could talk over
listening and
other
you're still
people too, okay?
talking
This is a
over me-
lesson in assertiveness. I am your dad right now, and I'm
It's
giving
not,
you an
because there's other
opportunity to
people.
learn.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the people around me right now. You understand that? So here's my point, right? I think you underestimate the extent to which the Industrial Revolution changed society. It's absolutely true. It fundamentally altered politics, altered society in so many ways, altered, the course of technology, the population of the world, right? 7 more billion people being born. That's absolutely a greater
Wait, what do you
change
mean
than maybe
7
1 million
billion
people
more
immigrating
people
from
being
India
born?
to the United States or from Singapore to
Wait,
China.
what do you mean
or something
7
like
billion people being born?
that. The population explosion
Okay, like over what time?
that happened as a consequence of the Industrial Revolution.
Well, yeah, of course, because we enabled food production and housing developments that allowed people to explode, and we also had more jobs to build. I understand, like, listen, I'm going to try and be charitable here. I understand you probably just came off like a high school history class, okay? I literally studied this shit for my degree, in large part. I recognize the extent to which the Industrial Revolution changed society. I'm not saying it did nothing. The difference, though, is that the Industrial Revolution was more or less an inevitable consequence of an economic system interacting with the development of certain technological advances. However, this climate change shit, this is something we could have avoided, and we didn't. And it will affect the entire planet at the same time, and it will not spark some glorious upheaval that will allow us to increase our population and standard of living. It will just ruin things for everyone. The Industrial Revolution had upsides. This will not. There's no benefit to be had here. Maybe, solar energy will become more efficient as the sunbeams roast us a little bit hotter. That's what we've got going for us. The Industrial Revolution was a technological and social upheaval. This is a cataclysm. And I don't know why, like, even if they were different levels of impact, like, impact can be good and bad. I can measure the impact of the Industrial Revolution positively. I can be like, oh, well, it did allow for a greater degree of, like, such and such and such and such, and allowed population to explode, and technology, and look, medicine, oh, look, vaccines. These are good things. What good can be extrapolated from the impending tide of global warming?
I mean, I don't think any good can be extracted from it, but that's not necessarily my point. My point is that we've been through more serious upheavals in terms of, you know, economy, in terms of society.
The difference is one of those upheavals gave us technology, and one of them will ruin the planet. Do you this is this would be like I get in a car crash and I break both of my legs, and you drag me out, and you're like, "Cheers up, buddy. You've gone through bigger. Wouldn't you say your wedding day was more substantial than this?" Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
No, because I don't think it'd be like a wedding day. I think instead I'd say like, oh, well, you've already experienced a heart attack and you've managed to recover from it, right?
The Industrial Revolution led to an increase in the standards of living of most people after an initial bumpy period. Yeah, for a while we had fucking cities.
Period.
Yes.
Decades and decades of
decades and decades of plague and death are going to be much better than what the Earth is about to experience. It's not poetic language. It's all in the UN climate reports, which we're free to read together. I'm sorry. I don't know like what level of privilege you're operating on right now, but the idea that like kids working in factories for like 60 or 70 years, or like union clashes with bosses, more of that class conflict, or like diseases being rampant in London, compares in any way to a cataclysm that is projected to impact the lives of every human on Earth and kill probably upwards of hundreds of millions within the next century. It's like,
no, I've never seen these numbers.
The waters will rise. We have people living on coasts. We have people living in areas where they rely on sustenance from plants that won't bloom in higher temperatures. We have people who live on the cusps of deserts. We have animal species that give us pharmaceuticals that we need that will not live with these changes. The Amazon is burning, and part of that is controlled, but a lot of that is coming from global warming too, because natural efforts to stop the fires have not worked.
From what I've seen, it's almost entirely controlled. It's, you know, because of deforestation efforts. I don't think this fire would have ever started or gotten to the extent that it's at if not for, you know, people directly interfering here.
I never said it wouldn't have gotten to the point that it's at. I'm saying that efforts to stop it by certain agents have failed in large part because the fire is more naturally ready to spread because it's hotter.
I've not actually read things about this.
Why would you assume?
Sure. What? What do you
mean? Then why would you assume and argue the contrary if you haven't read anything on this?
Because it just seems like
Because it seems like I'm irrational because I use flowery prose and I care about a big change to society. It is the attachment to the status quo that defines the liberal. You are desperate to find ways to paint this over, to say like, oh, it's not a big. And listen, dude, I'm sorry. You're going to live to see the world burn. I mean, I am too. I'm literally only 9 years older than you, but you're going to live to see it. I don't know if this is like self-preservation, like you're denying, so you don't like accept the overwhelming dread. This could literally be the end of the human species, more so than the nuclear winters threatened by the Cold War ever posed to us. More so, because at least then we had shelters. But this fundamentally poses the threat to every aspect of the supply chain that makes modern civilization possible.
From what I've read, and I did read the UN climate report, by the way, it doesn't seem like these incredibly apocalyptic predictions are being made by academics right now. I think like pretty much the only like claims I've seen from this are like from extremely far left. No. You are doing propaganda right now. What I'm hearing is I didn't read the UN climate report, but I read a bullet point of it. And one time I saw a person on Twitter who had a fucking anarchy flag avatar saying the world is going to burn in 10 years if I don't. What you're saying is literally fake news. The UN climate report projects things that I am describing right now. Nothing that I am describing is fanciful exaggeration. This is the world we're going to have to live with, and it is in large part a product of the system you're so eager to defend. Why instead of hiding or putting our heads under the sand, why don't we think of like, what can we do to fix this? Like, what fundamental social economic upheavals will be necessary to address the roots of why we're dealing with this problem? Mm-hmm. And I could argue totally it's capitalism. Could you? How would your system better combat climate change?
The argument is that it's the bourgeois class who is insulated from the consequences of climate change, and it is for that reason that they are able to influence government and society to allow them to continue doing as they will. By disseminating propaganda, which encourages people to believe that like climate change is fake news, to buying off senators, with the elimination of the bourgeois class, there will still be industries advocating for their interests, like gas and oil and coal, but those will not be able to unite with the bourgeois of other industries and will therefore not form a totality of interest that will dominate Washington. Instead, it will just be different collectives of workers aiming to achieve different ends. And that is significantly less exploitative than a bourgeois-controlled government.
Okay, so let's say we have like a gas co-op, right? Mm-hmm. I know you touched on this right there. in your statements about industries doing this, but like, what is it? Why would like in the current environment, right? Why would bourgeois? I don't know how to say that word.
Bourgeois.
Yeah. Why would these people why would these people team up even though they're in different industries, right? So we have like an oil billionaire, and then we have like a technology billionaire. Why would that technology billionaire sort of team up with this oil billionaire to promote the destruction of the climate?
Because all of them are insulated from the consequences of destroying the climate. All of them would survive.
But even if they're insulated, right? Well, first of all, I would not say that they are fully insulated.
No, they are. A billionaire, there is no effect on Earth that can kill a billionaire apart from assassination or natural illness. There is no effect to the climate.
They make a lot less money if millions of people started dying.
Yeah, but by that point, it won't matter. They believe, this is, by the way, true. They believe, I'm pretty sure there have been like exposés done on this. They believe that climate change is going to happen one way or another because they are cogs in a machine that can't be stopped. They believe like one way or another, industry will continue to do this to the earth. Thank God I'm on top. Better make sure I have mine before things really go to shit. This is this is what they do. They've always done this.
I'd love to see that exposé.
Sure, you know the kings and nobles did the exact same thing on the cusp of the anti-monarchist revolutions that swept across Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries, right? Even in the face of oblivion, these people continue to live luxurious lives because, as Daddy Mark said, people's behaviors and ideologies are codified into their class positions, not into their actual ideological processes.
I also know that in like Vietnam, who's that guy? He was the leader of South Vietnam. Literally, when South Vietnam was about to be taken over by the North, he literally loaded like all of his wealth onto like a United States cargo plane and flew to Massachusetts and lived there until he was like 85 years old, which is ridiculous. So I understand that. So I suppose that's actually a pretty decent argument. I don't know. I think that's rational. I don't know. I mean, I was already sort of like on the cusp of agreeing with you in the first place. Like I said, I describe myself as a left liberal. I've never heard this specific argument for it, but it seems like a good one.
My main contention isn't so co-ops can still do horribly exploitative things, but my argument is that by making everyone's society beholden to the same basic social and economic consequences as everyone else, we have a more unified class interest. Whereas right now, the billionaires are in a class of their own. Billionaires don't give a fuck how healthcare in this country works, or how like the public school system is. They've got their own everything. They live in their own world, but they're the ones who control the government for the most part, or at least they have a heavy hand in it. So my argument would be by forming an economic system that returns that wealth and power to the people, even if those people disagree, they're still people, not bourgeois, who, as we know, are reptilian. But that's my argument. Also, spoilers.
I suppose you have to admit though that in this system, it wouldn't totally like ignore exploitation of like foreign communities and stuff like that, right? Like
no, it wouldn't, not even slightly. I have a different set of ideas but I'm still working on that, like in my head. I still want to read more theory on that. International oppression is still very much a possibility in this regard, but I think it would be at least better. It's easier to oppress people when everyone's just listening to the higher up. It's a little harder when you democratically vote to like fuck.
Well, yeah, but you have to recognize that like instead of individuals being higher ups now, you'd have industries being higher ups, you know? Like,
but democratically elected ones, not just like an industry led by like stockholders who appoint a CEO, but rather by a democratic commune of workers who must collectively vote to make big decisions. And I think that does lead to better outcomes.
My point is, let's say we have like some manufacturing company dumping waste into the rivers of like a neighboring county or something like that, and then they, pay officials in the government money so that this abuse doesn't get countered by government power. Like that's totally a possibility even in your socialist society.
Yeah, my ideal would be some kind of democratic agency that would be responsible for ensuring that the internal democratic workings of a corporation of some kind or a co-op would be broadly in line with the interests of the people who work there to avoid exploitative practices, and then that will bring the decision-making process more into light, hopefully, which will discourage like impropriety, like really shitty behavior. It's easier to get away with like sneaky, like not following the rules, oh no, sneaky poo-poo, when you can just when everything is just given to you top down and you can't question orders from your superiors. The idea would just be to build a system that is less likely to fail.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that. that one statement that you made about like, the corrupt political establishment. I'm not sure if I totally am in line with your beliefs about that. I think the political establishment has helped the, moderate society, prevent extremism, especially from the right. And that, like, our recent attempts to dismantle it, such as, what's one thing? We made it like, well, like, one thing is like the ways that we've changed. I'm trying to think of the specifics.
How has the government prevented us from right-wing extremism?
No, not the government, the political establishment, the middlemen, which allow politicians to get elected.
You mean like the tech bros, like the Twitter CEOs and shit?
No, not really. I'm talking about like the political parties. I'm talking about who else? Yeah, I mean,
we had like a literal white nationalist on the Trump's cabinet. We had like Bannon. He like failed to condemn the Charlottesville. I mean, maybe the DNC is doing a decent job keeping fringe elements the right out.
No, I'm saying these things that we're seeing now with Trump and white nationalism, I'd say these things are a result of the dismantling of the political establishment.
But they aren't. The Republican Party is just as strong as it's been for 100 years. Why? What dismantling has taken place to allow it to fail?
That I got this idea from.
Yeah, sure.
It's a really good read, and it brings up like a lot
keep in mind,
fascists
have aligned with Republicans for like 30 or 40 years.
I'm going to drop it in your chat, all right?
All right, hit it up.
I can send links, right?
Yeah, I unbound. The Atlantic. How American politics went insane. 24 years, yeah. Okay, I can't speed read this that quickly. Okay,
it's a big article, but
yeah, it is. I'll add this to my to-read
specific
list.
Arguments. Here, scroll down until it says vulnerability.
Yeah. How the war on middlemen left America defenseless.
Yeah. And then see how it has these paragraphs that start with italicized text?
Yeah.
Okay, this is like the actual.
We reformed the nominating process. We reformed political money. We reformed Congress. Yeah. So I agree that the political system has been like sort of being pulled apart for a while. I don't disagree with that. I would argue that's a product of the economic and political elite, though. This is their goal. Like, think of all the things. I would say so. I mean, think of the Republican Party. The Republican Party can get away with basically anything these days. They wildly gerrymander. They work in tandem with a private corporation, Fox News, to disseminate propaganda. We have basically a fascist in office, and he appointed basically fascists to his cabinets, failed to condemn Nazis. This is exactly what they want. Most fucking Republicans have been fascist or Nazi leaning for ages. I bet it must be relaxing to have them go mask off.
I don't know. I think it talks about how there's been like a lot of funding to avoid things like this happening. Do you know about Andrew Jackson? I know I'm bringing in like a lot of
I know Andrew Jackson,
stuff that I've been over. I sort of see him as like a precursor to a lot of the things that we see nowadays, and I just know from history that like he was not very well funded at all. He sort of came as like a grassroots organization and stuff like that. And then it talks about even how, I assume you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to like.
If you're not a Bernie Sanders supporter, you are anti-Semitic. Just a warning.
True.
Did you think that was a joke?
Yeah, totally. But no, like I'd say he says. I just lost my point because of that comment. That was pretty funny though. Anyways, no, I just recommend you read this on your own time. I think it's pretty good information. I want to move on to another topic now, right?
In the political system's capacity for self-organization, weakening the institutions and brokers, political parties, career politicians. Well, this is one of my problems with the DNC. The RNC, the Republicans, were willing to kowtow and appoint like a populist dipshit Trump to the office of the presidency, and the entire party fell in line. All these big boy, like big dick Republicans, all of them kissed ass and sucked feet to get in line with Trump's America. Whereas the Democratic Party isn't willing to do the same behind its populist candidate, Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
So my argument would be that while the system is breaking, it's breaking asymmetrically. And the reason for that is because liberals are more willing to see a fascist put in office than they are any real threat of leftism.
I don't know. I'd say that as a liberal, I'd much rather have, Sanders in power than Trump, of course.
Well, what if you were a liberal bourgeois and you knew taxes would rise under Sanders?
You have like actual exposés or stuff like that actually suggest this?
Not an expose, but you can see from polling data where Sanders' support comes from and where Trump's support comes from. Trump's support comes very largely from wealthy people, and Sanders' support comes very much not from wealthy people. Of course, Sanders will raise taxes on the wealthy. Why would they vote for him? People vote in their own material interests, or at least the bourgeois do. The proletariat do not.
Wait, so why aren't all right liberals just fascists then? If this is your argument.
It's just a matter of time, my friend. Hey, it's just a matter of time. Do you have any idea how many times in American politics liberals have kowtowed to fascism if it meant not having to like face the threat of communism? So many times. You should look up the like Kent State or the Hollywood 10, or I mean honestly just the entirety of the Red Scare. You can look at the gay rights, like during the 1980s, or the civil rights march during the 60s, at every major breaking point in history, in American history, where there has been a threat of meaningful economic or social change moving towards the left, like say giving black people rights or fucking whatever, the liberal elements of the left-leaning party have switched sides and voted right. Essentially, they were called Dixiecrats for a while, but now that term is kind of antiquated. It makes sense, you know. There are a lot of really fucking racist Dems, and a lot of racist Dems would much rather see somebody like Trump in office than they would see somebody like I guess like Kamala Harris. And that was more the case before, but now it aligns more along class lines because people have generally gotten more progressive. Not so much in the South.
I will say I'm a bit hesitant about like just accepting this all as fact. I really wish I was more politically informed. I have to do more reading, and like of course once I get into college and stuff like that, I'm not doing political science, but or anything even like really related, but you know, I definitely just want to become more educated. I'm doing a lot more reading recently.
Well, that's obvious to me because, like, I fucking hate reading. I'm looking at this and my eyes are blurring over. Listen, like, for what it's worth, you're substantially more well-read and intelligent than like any person I've ever spoken to of your age. And I understand that sounds inherently patronizing, but age is, of course, a corresponding factor to one's general degree of understanding, especially since you and I are both younger.
I have this general theory that like Zoomers, like because the internet, mostly access to the internet and access to like opposing viewpoints and stuff like that. And again, this is all anecdotal. There's not really much evidence that I could actually find, like empirical evidence to find that supports this. But I think there's sort of like a new wave of like political information. From what I've encountered online, and you probably know this too, from your interactions with Twitter and Discord and stuff like that, it seems like Zoomers tend to either be like really far left or really far right. You know, you either have like the Nick Fuentes or like you.
Liberalism is dying, and so is capitalism. People are going to grow more and more extreme towards either end because this system isn't working for the majority of the population. And I just want people to go the right side. So this is my belief. I don't back this up with theory. I could back this up with theory, but you can back anything up with theory if you try hard enough. My belief is that we are in the end stages of this system. For a time, economic and social inequality were acceptable because we didn't have the transparency, the media apparatuses. We didn't have the systems in place to really recognize and masticate on that oppression. But nowadays, the homeless live in the same cities as the uber wealthy. Nowadays, everyone can Google gerrymandered districts or red lines between black and white neighborhoods. The lines are growing thicker and people are becoming more aware of them. And some people are going to see lines, like for me, between the obscenely wealthy and the not. That more wealth is now concentrated in the hands of capital owners than has ever been essentially at any point in history. And for some people, the lines they're going to see are brown people moving into their cities or Jewish people in media. And those are the lines of injustice they're going to focus on. I just want to make sure people see the right lines and interpret them the right way. That's my goal.
Yeah, and this sort of brings me to like the next point that I wanted to like sort of argue with you is that I'm not really going to blame you for this, but I feel like a lot of the things that people on the left in general are doing are like not very good for like progressing us. Like, you know, we don't have a very good image.
Ha! I don't disagree with that.
We don't have good rhetoric at all. And I feel like your image is probably better than like 80% of leftists, but like it still could be a lot better in a number of ways. And I just want to like hear your takes on this. So, I mean, for one, I already brought up how like I don't like seeing the inconsistency in your online image and your actual image in real life. Like, no offense, but like the first thing I thought when I saw you was neckbeard.
Okay, listen. I get one thing. I get calling me fat. I'm fine with being called fat. I am fat. I'm 250 pounds. Okay,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, no. I understand. It's optics. Like whatever. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Same like Alibrel on Twitch or whatever. I don't have a problem with them being fat or anything. But like from an optics perspective, it does lend itself towards a certain image. The one thing I don't get, however, is the neck beard. I understand I don't shave very often, but my jawline is right here. All the hair is on my fucking face. It's this I don't get. I feel like nowadays neckbeard just means anyone who's overweight with a beard.
It might be the ponytail.
I remember when the neckbeard days meant you had a fuck ton of hair right here, and like your beard line started right here at the beginning of the jaw. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm sorry, Zoomers are wrong on this one. I'm reclaiming the old definition.
I don't know, man. And like again, just like a few other things. This is just like, I'm not trying to attack you as a person here, but I feel like whenever I turn on your stream, you have the same shirt on. Can I say that?
You can't say that. You have one more point.
It's always that same shirt, dude.
Get it over with. You have one more point.
All right. One last thing, right? I don't like saying ACAB, and I don't like what Antifa is doing for the most part.
I think ACAB has mixed optics. I mean, I agree with the sentiment. Fuck cops. I tend not to say.
Nah, I don't really agree with that sentiment.
Wait. Out of curiosity, what race are you?
Hi, Mom.
Hey.
I love you, Mom.
Love you.
All right. No, but what I'm saying is,
wait, what race are you?
I'm white, Caucasian.
Okay. All right. Just curious. No relation. No, I agree. Fuck all cops. Obviously, easiest call in my life. However, the ACAB shit. It's mostly about how you present it. So if you say ACAB and someone's like, "Oh, what? You think all cops are bad people?" and you're like, "Huh, yeah, fuck cops, piece of shit." Like that probably doesn't come off great, like optics wise. But if someone was like ACAB and then someone was like, "What do you mean by that?" and they were like, "Well, systemically, cops tend to defend the interests of oppressors. Like if you look throughout history, you look at their treatment of these communities, like so not like individually they're bad people, but as a group it's like a bad profession." I think that's fine, but a lot of lefties can't articulate that distinction.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, for everyone that made fun of my mom in chat, she has cancer, so you're a bad person.
Wait, guys, don't make fun of fucking this guy's mom. What the fuck is wrong with you? I fucked her. She's hot.
She's 65. Anyways,
hey, no age.
But I feel like I have like a lot of friends who are like from police families and stuff like that, because I'm from an area where there's actually like pretty high crime. And like the impression that they get of this is like very averse to it, because I know this is like a very lib statement to make, but I don't know, when you generalize everyone as one thing, it tends to have like really, really bad outcomes, you know? So like, would you not agree that the majority of actions taken by the police force are for the benefit of society? Would you not agree with that?
Oh, no, not even close. The majority of actions done by the police department are either like harassing like homeless people or vagrants, making mean looks at black people, writing traffic tickets, or like generally not following through in the rape kits they have, like collecting dust in the fucking department. I have very little respect for cops as an institution. And by the way, when cops protested and stopped working in New York, crime actually went down for that month. So there might be evidence to argue that the existence of cops creates more crime. You know how like in the Batman comics is like, oh shit, Batman, all your rogues gallery, all of your villains are only doing what they do to get a rise out of you. Maybe if you stopped being Batman, there would stop being like as much crime. That's what I'm talking. Okay, all cops are Batman. That's the kindest take I have for them.
All right. Like what about like the millions of crimes that are like prevented or stopped by the police force?
I mean, are there millions of crimes prevented or stopped? In my experience,
show me any society which has like existed without a police force.
Whoa, those are two different arguments. I agree a police force is necessary, but I challenge this idea that they're like always stopping crimes. Actual investigations are usually handled by detectives, not beat cops. Beat cops are usually just around to make people feel secure and to give out like traffic tickets, you know, and like write parking citations and that shit. But in my experience, like if something really bad happens to you, usually what happens is you call 911 and 38 minutes later the police show up, write a long police report, ask you if you're okay, and then they drive off and you never hear anything from them again.
I don't know.
I'm not saying they never do good things. I'm saying I feel like the value of their work.
Do you have like actual numbers on like their ability to like influence? Sorry, I phrased that wrong. Do you have like actual numbers for what you're saying right now?
I mean, not in front of me. No, I'd have to collaborate like an ACAP section of my research doc or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, civil
In that case,
asset
like I really don't
forfeiture.
like you making that claim that like, oh well, if you ever have a problem, the police will just show up to your house and not ever follow up or never do anything about that. I
I
feel like
do
that's
do that a
like,
lot. I've called the police a couple times. Like again, I'm not trying to go with like anecdote Andy here or whatever, but I feel like the amount of crime they actually like the way in which they contribute to society is largely overstated. And as fucking Demon Mama just pointed out so aptly in chat, the total like dollar value of asset forfeiture has exceeded the total like value of thefts that take place in society. So they're just fucking yeeting money from people. More than they're actually preventing theft. Even if they prevented every theft that has taken place, like over the past given time period, the amount that they stole from average people would exceed that, which is pretty fucked.
yeah. Also, K Prime, could you not like assume that just because I'm white, I'm not allowed to have a valid opinion on this? I'm not really getting my sort of evidence for the way that the police institution acts from
Well,
the anecdotal experiences that I've had with it. I'm certain that the experiences that I've had with the police are much different from what like a minority or whatever would have. Um, Although, if we're talking about anecdotes, what I will say is I do live in a neighborhood which is majority black and Hispanic by like a very, very wide margin. Most people that live in my neighborhood, we're living in public housing.
burglary.
Most
Yeah.
people here are first generation immigrants from the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And like we have actually a pretty good connection with the police, I'd say. Like the kids that go to my school, uh, I've seen there's police officers and stuff like that, and I've seen pretty good interactions between them and the minorities that live in my community.
I want to say, by the way, I don't actually think being a cop makes you a shit person. There are actually some departments, I think, that are pretty responsible and humane. A lot of big city departments, like the shit you'll find in fucking LA, New York, Chicago, these people tend to be scum. It's a workplace, feature. But I have met, like, nice PD, It's funny, I grew up in Beverly Hills. My growing up experience opposite to yours, okay? No crime happens in Beverly Hills. Like, no, like, violent crime at least. It's all white collar shit.
Really?
So you can walk around any time of day. No one ever gets hurt. It's just too secure of a city. And the police were always real nice to me there. Sometimes I'd see her like doing her patrol, and she'd drive me to school if I was late, which was always because I'm a lazy cunt and got bad grades in middle school. And it was great. And it was only until I was in high school that I realized one of the reasons why the BHPD was so nice was following a department reorganization after the chief had, back in 1999, said on his radio something along the lines of "Cold one for the first person who brings a Negro into the station," or something like that. It's experiences definitely vary from like person to person and place to place, and there are good experiences with cops. It's just like as a class, like when it comes to systemic issues too, like
yeah.
But I don't like hate all cops as people.
You're being a lot more reasonable than I expected you to be about this. I hate speaking with like lefties on your Discord, and they're like 40%, 40%. Do you use that statistic?
Well, the real meme is it's actually 42%, and those are only reported, not actual. So
really?
my actual stipulation is 100% of cops. The truth is, I can be honest with you, I don't actually care what the statistic is. Even if it was completely unknown, I would still meme about it.
Yeah, that study is not at all reliable. If you look at the source that came.
No, I have read about that. Yeah. Though it is worth noting, though, like this is where propagandizing comes in. Like I don't particularly care. It's my job, like in a class sense, to paint police officers as demons, and I'll do so to the best of my extent. I'll do so reasonably and data driven for the most part because I think that works best. But I'm only trying to achieve like my material interests as a member of the proletariat. Same that they would do to me if they had an interest against me.
Yeah, I suppose. I just think, like, again, it's bad optics in general to be criticizing people who probably exist at the same income level, at the same class level that you do.
Well, different class, because they're the jackbooted thugs of the bourgeois. Again, this really depends on the department. Like, I would never walk up to like a fucking Dem like correspondence dinner and start talking about fuck all cops. But if I'm organizing in like a Latinx neighborhood or some shit, I'm fucking rallying around that talking point. It really just depends on who you can reach. But my private position is that police are a fundamentally broken system that needs to be abolished.
I mean, I also want to say, aren't cops like some of the most racially diverse positions in the United States?
I don't give a fuck if that cop is black, white, Latino, woman, or trans. That motherfucker's a class traitor one way or another.
I understand that. I'm just saying, like, when you're criticizing them as like such a great force of oppression against these minority classes. It's I don't know.
No, they are, whether
Yeah,
or
I
not
guess
they're
you could.
black or white. Like that doesn't really
Yeah,
factor
yeah,
in. You can,
that's true.
yeah,
I
you
actually
can
agree with that. Yeah, I
perpetuate
changed my
those
statement on
systems.
that. What else?
We're past that one extra point after you dissed my fucking shirt collection.
Really?
Oh yeah, really.
Sorry.
Wait, yeah, absolutely. I love my shirts.
Yeah, pretty chill. One last thing. I forgot what it was.
Hit me up.
Oh, what was I thinking about? I don't know if I can ever expect. Well, yeah, maybe you said in like hundreds or thousands of years in anarchist society, right? But it'd take a very long time.
I think it would take a few hundred. So, in my mind, timescale wise, I think we need about 50 or 60 years for material conditions to advance to a point where we start seeing mass scale, like proletarian revolutions across the world, at least in developed countries. When that happens, hopefully we lean left. And after that, I think that it would probably take at least a century of like civil reorganizing before society is ready to transition into a stateless sort of variant of itself. But I strictly argue in favor of class consciousness and market socialism. Privately, it's entirely possible to me that 100 years from now, in the future, anarchy or anarchism or anarcho-syndicalism are going to be literally irrelevant because some new technology or social system will have evolved to make them like meaningless. So I try and argue for what I know is good now, and I leave the heavy theorizing to sort of a post-capitalist framework. You know?
Yeah, pretty much agree with you there. Now, can I finally just end up saying like, here are like a few suggestions that I have for like improving image and stuff like that, and I want to see if you agree with me or disagree with me on them. Not just your personal image, but like the image of the left as a whole.
Yeah, hit me up.
All right, so this is going to be a pretty hot take at first, but I feel like if the left wants to start winning elections and stuff like that, it should stop presenting itself as like primarily a defender of like trans and minority rights, and like and instead it should consider itself like the party of the worker and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying?
I think these things don't need to be mutually exclusive. I agree that right now, the left probably dedicates. If we have to split the time we spend into like a pie graph, I agree we probably spend too much time on progressivism rather than on class liberation. But the reason for that is because progressivism feels so much better. It's more satisfying. Like, I can argue in favor of trans rights today and a year later see change and positive news. But people have been arguing in favor of class liberation for a century and things have only gotten worse. So it's mostly a matter of like immediate, like short-term survival and sustainability and feeling good about what you do. But yeah, I agree. I agree we could do more, but I don't think we should abandon our positions on trans or racial
No,
minorities
obviously
or
you shouldn't
anything.
abandon your positions. I'm saying they shouldn't be the primary sort of image that you're going by, especially in the United States. I'm sure in like Europe or like Australia, this would work way better.
Actually,
Because there
Australia
are.
is worse than the U.S., but I get what you mean.
Wait, really?
Yeah, no, they are. Australia is a hell country. It's run by psychos. Never go there. I've been there. Don't
I
go
didn't
there.
know that, dude. I thought you had like egg boys all over.
Yeah,
Zoomers.
but no, but I agree. I agree. We should put we should present progressive and class liberation together as intertwined and inherently necessary to one another, rather than putting forward, and the left is entirely represented by fucking trans cat girls on Twitter and who screech about ACAB, but then like we don't actually do anything for union organizing. I agree with that. I'll take it. I'll take the bullet.
Yeah, and then secondly, I think like what's really, really important is for the left to start, start developing an image of self-improvement, especially on like the individual level. It seems like the right seems to have dominated this more than anyone else. Like,
have you been
people
watching
like
my
Jordan
videos?
Peterson.
What the fuck?
What's up?
Have you been watching my videos?
Not all of them, unfortunately.
What the fuck?
I'm quite busy.
No, I completely agree. I think that lefty communities, while they do a better job of like sheltering people and like bolstering people with like social weakness, there's very often this idea like you're perfect as you are, you don't need to improve, you don't need to change, just deal with yourself, just deal with your life. And I disagree with that. I think self-improvement should be an inherent component of any like mainstream ideology, because it facilitates the best in its practitioners. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, cool. This is actually something that like I'm mainly interested in. I don't want to like be online sort of as like totally a political. What's going on? Why are you using your hand like that, bro?
Oh, the camera was out of focus.
Oh, okay. But I don't want to be like online totally as like this political figure, but I think it's very important to sort of establish this fusion because, like I said, we have figures like Jordan Peterson, and I don't think their advice is good, but it is advice. People like Jordan Peterson, people like Ben Shapiro, people like the Golden One. You know him? You know?
Oh, well, yeah,
You
of
know?
course I know the Golden One. Yeah, I know fucking Golden One.
Yeah, and they have like
Contra's
this sort of
fucking
philosophy of like
jerking
red
himself off
pilling,
for it.
which is pathetic. I think it's wrong on so many things, but and it's like a lot of toxic masculinity and things like that, which ultimately detracts from people's abilities to achieve their goals. But,
no, I agree. It's the old meme. A fascist worked out today. Did you? We should be encouraging people to be strong,
Yeah.
to educate themselves, to be disciplined physically and mentally. Because not only does that generally lead to people being better advocates for their ideology, it also generally makes people happier. And you want people to be like driving themselves forward all the time. I do know a lot of people in lefty like political spaces who are rooted or mired in a system of perpetual self-affirming discontent, and I think that's a very bad place to be for anyone, on a personal level, not just a systemic.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of doomer sort of like philosophy. You know what doomers are?
I know it, dude. I'm 25. Do you think I'm like 40?
Let me get some boomer spam in chat right now.
All right, you've got 30 seconds.
All right. Man, you put me on the spot. What's my last thing? Dude. Oh no, dude. Why do you have to put me on this timer?
You can do it.
Dude,
I believe
Monka
in you.
S, dude. I forgot my last point. Oh boy. Oh bother. Oh yeah,
15.
this is one last thing. I think like there's a general problem on the left of sort of like the ends justify the means, using that sort of philosophy. So like for example, I know this is really, really anecdotal, but like I see a lot of posts, especially on places like Chapo Trap House and stuff like that, where they'll like present a totally false statistic and they'll say like, oh well, the ultimate goal of this statistic is, you know, a good goal, and like so for that reason it's fine for me to distribute this misinformation. You know, like I saw one where it's like, oh well, climate change will have apocalyptic effects in like 5 years, and it's like, no, who's that helping by saying that? You're probably not really convincing anyone.
I mean, as a consequentialist, I do believe the ends justify the means, like under every circumstance. However, I think that on an axiomatic level, honesty is valuable because honesty is the system by which we can correct and liberate ideologies and like move them into a better place. So if you say, "Hey, I'm willing to do anything to win, including lying," then the target of your lies will sometimes be those who agree with you, and that makes it difficult to refine ideologies from within. I'm willing to go pretty much anywhere except dishonesty.
I agree with that. And then like a secondary point that I'd on.
No. All right, you've had your time, buddy. Bucko, go clean your fucking room.
Want to say anything? Let me say trans rights because I'll say it.
Get the fucking trans rights.
Let's get it, bro. Trans rights.
All right, two things from my end. For one, I actually enjoy the conversation. And for two, you fucking go back to DGG, all right, and tell them.
I'm not on DGG. I got banned.
Go get unbanned.
No, literally, I got banned for typing the Navy SEAL copy pasta in like Hindu, and they called it a death threat and banned me.
All right, well, you're welcome here, buddy. All right.
Yes.
Have a good one.
All right, peace.
Peace. You know, that ended up being a lot more productive a conversation than I was expecting. Gray Stairs, what the fuck do you mean talk about infighting? What does that mean? I forgot trans rights. I don't need to say trans rights. Why the fuck should I need to say trans rights? I say it like 18 times a day.